The large silver ship appeared in Earth's orbit on a Tuesday morning. It did not come alone. 6 smaller vessels flanked it in perfect formation. They made no aggressive moves. They simply waited. News of the alien vessels spread quickly across the planet. Some people panicked. Others celebrated. Most simply watched their screens in stunned silence as humanity's greatest question was finally answered. We are not alone. In Washington, D.C., military leaders gathered in an underground room. The president looked tired but determined as she addressed the group. They've sent a message. They want to talk, she said. We need to decide who meets them. After hours of debate, they selected Commander John Baker to lead the small human delegation. John had served 20 years in the Navy with distinction. He was known for staying calm under pressure and thinking outside normal boundaries. More importantly, he understood people, what they wanted, and why they might hide their true intentions. This isn't what I expected for my retirement year, John said when they called him with the assignment. The second member of the delegation was Dr. Patricia Miller. She had studied the possibility of alien life for 30 years at Harvard. Her colleagues had often laughed at her theories, but now they weren't laughing anymore. We should approach this meeting with open minds but careful eyes, Patricia told the president. Just because they haven't attacked doesn't mean they come as friends. The third delegate chosen was Alan Reyes, a language expert who had developed new translation methods that might help with alien communication. 3 days after the ships arrived, John, Patricia, and Alan boarded a small aircraft headed for the mothership. The aliens had agreed to this meeting in orbit rather than coming down to Earth. John wondered if this was caution or strategy on their part. Look at that, whispered Alan as they approached the massive vessel. Its surface wasn't solid metal as it had appeared from Earth. It seemed to shift slightly like something alive. An opening appeared in the side of the ship. Their pilot carefully guided their craft inside. When they stepped out, the air felt normal. The gravity felt only slightly lighter than Earth's. They've adjusted conditions for our comfort, noted Patricia. That shows consideration. 3 aliens waited for them. 2 stood tall and elegant with multiple tentacle-like limbs that moved with surprising grace. Their skin shimmered with blues and purples. The third alien looked entirely different, a shorter being that seemed made of connected crystal structures that occasionally flashed with internal light. Welcome, said one of the tall aliens, the words coming through a small device at what might be its neck. I am Ambassador Zorli of the Valurian people. My colleagues are Subdirector Naz of my species and Representative Crystal of the Zax. We speak for the Galactic Conquered. John stepped forward. I am Commander Baker. This is Dr. Miller and Mr. Reyes. We represent Earth. The aliens led them to a room with a large circular table. The walls displayed moving images of different worlds, some eerily similar to Earth, others completely alien with strange colors and impossible landscapes. The Galactic Conquered consists of 47 spacefaring civilizations, explained Zorli. We have existed as a peaceful cooperative for over 12,000 of your years. Patricia leaned forward. And now you've come to Earth? Why? The crystalline, alien crystal made a sound like small bells before speaking. Your world sits at a junction of what we call hyperlanes, natural pathways through space that allow faster travel. This makes Earth strategically valuable. John noticed how the alien emphasized the word strategically and felt a small alarm bell ring in his mind. We offer Earth membership in our Conquered, continued Zorli. This would bring many benefits to your people. Medical advances that would end most disease. Energy technology that would solve your climate concerns. Protection from less friendly species who have also noticed your world. Less friendly than yourselves? John asked carefully. The galaxy is vast, and not all intelligent life values cooperation, said Naz, speaking for the first time. The Conquered provides security through unity, Alan asked. What would Earth need to provide in return for these benefits? Very little, Zorli said smoothly. Permission to establish small scientific outposts in the uninhabited regions of your solar system. Participation in our cultural exchange programs. Agreement to our basic laws of interaction. The meeting continued for hours. The aliens showed images of advanced cities, incredible technologies, and medical procedures that seemed like magic. They explained how Earth would gradually receive these benefits as it matured into full membership. When they returned to their craft, John, Patricia, and Alan were quiet for a long time. "They're offering us the stars," Alan finally said. "Everything humanity has dreamed about," Patricia nodded slowly. "Yes, but I noticed some inconsistencies in the translation of certain terms. When they spoke of developmental assistance and resource management, the translator hesitated slightly." John stared out at Earth, growing larger as they descended. "Did you see how Zorli's skin color darkened when I asked what they get from this arrangement? Their body language isn't human, but that was definitely discomfort." Back on Earth, the 3 delegates reported to a room full of world leaders. They described the meeting and the generous offer from the Galactic Concord. "It sounds too good to be true," said the German Chancellor. "Perhaps it is exactly what it appears to be. Advanced civilizations reaching out to help a younger one," suggested the Indian Prime Minister. The room erupted in debate. Some leaders wanted to accept immediately. Others urged extreme caution. In the corner, John spoke quietly with Patricia. "I want to believe them, but something feels wrong." Patricia nodded. "During my career studying potential alien contact scenarios, I always imagined advanced species would have their own agendas. Nothing in nature gives without taking. Then we need to figure out what they're not telling us," said John. As the meeting continued, news came that more alien ships had arrived in orbit. The Galactic Concord representatives requested another meeting, this time with all of Earth's major leaders present. "They're moving quickly now," John observed. "They want an answer soon." Patricia looked troubled. "Before we fully understand the question." She pulled out her tablet and showed John something she had recorded during the meeting. In the background of one of the displays of alien worlds, barely noticeable, was an image of what looked like one species working under the supervision of another. "I need to find someone who can help us analyze everything about these aliens. Their language, their technology, their true intentions," John said. Patricia smiled. "I know just the person. But he doesn't like people much, and he really doesn't like the government." "Who is he?" "Eric Grant. Brilliant cryptographer who's been developing algorithms to decode potential alien languages for years. He's been preparing for this moment his whole life." John looked out the window at the night sky, where the alien ships now shone like new stars. "Let's hope he's prepared better than the rest of us, because I think Earth is about to make the most important decision in human history." Eric Grant lived in a small house at the edge of a forest in Oregon. Solar panels covered the roof, and satellite dishes of various sizes pointed at the sky. No one had visited in over 3 years until John and Patricia arrived on his doorstep. "Go away," said a voice through a speaker beside the door. "Dr. Grant, this is about first contact," Patricia said. "The aliens are here and we need your help." There was a long pause before the door opened. Eric stood there, a tall man with wild gray hair and eyes that moved constantly. He wore a faded t-shirt with math equations printed on it. "I knew they'd come eventually," he said. The signals were there for anyone really looking. Inside, Eric's home looked like a cross between a library and a computer lab. Screens covered one wall, showing data streams and star charts. Books about languages, code breaking, and astronomy filled shelves. John explained their meeting with the Galactic Concord, while Patricia showed Eric the recordings they had made. "They're offering us everything," John said. "Advanced medicine, clean energy, protection." Eric watched the videos carefully. Nothing is free in this universe. What do they really want? Patricia showed him the formal agreement the aliens had provided. Hundreds of pages of dense text translated into English. "They want an answer within 2 weeks," she said. "World leaders are already leaning toward accepting." Eric took the document and began scanning through it. "Give me 3 days." For 3 days, Eric barely slept. He created new programs to analyze the alien language and compare different parts of the agreement. John and Patricia stayed, helping where they could and bringing food that Eric hardly touched. On the morning of the 3rd day, Eric called them to his main computer. Look at this, he said, pointing to sections of text highlighted in different colors. The translation seems straightforward, but there are patterns in the original text that suggest hidden meanings. He showed them how certain phrases that translated as mutual cooperation actually contained embedded terms that, when cross-referenced with other sections, suggested managed resource extraction. And here, Eric continued, pointing to another section, where they promise medical technology, the fine print essentially classifies humans as test subjects for experimental procedures. Most disturbing was what Eric found in the section about Earth status in the Conquered. They're classifying us as a protected developing species. That sounds nice until you see how other such species are treated in their own legal code. No voting rights. No true sovereignty. We'd be glorified pets. John's face darkened. I knew something felt wrong. Patricia studied the evidence. We need to take this to the president immediately. While they prepared to leave, John received a call from Susan Taylor, a diplomat newly assigned to the First Contact Office. She had been touring one of the Conquered vessels as part of ongoing discussions. Commander Baker, Susan's voice was hushed. Something strange is happening here. I've been meeting representatives from other Conquered species, and some of them are treated more like servants than allies. When I asked questions about it, my Valyrian guide became agitated, and now they're sending me back to Earth early. Stay alert, John told her. We'll meet you when you return. In Washington, tension filled the room as Eric presented his findings to key military and political leaders. Some refused to believe it. Others were outraged. Even if this analysis is correct, said the Secretary of State, can we afford to reject their offer? Their technology could solve our biggest problems. At the cost of our freedom, John replied. The debate lasted hours. Finally, the president made a decision. We'll request clarification on these terms. If they're honestly offering partnership, they should be willing to address our concerns. The next day, Earth representatives met with Ambassador Zorley and the other Conquered delegates. When confronted with Eric's analysis, the alien's reaction was revealing. Zorley's skin darkened dramatically, and Crystal's crystalline body flashed with rapid pulses of light. Your species shows remarkable perceptiveness, Zorley finally said. These are simply standard legal terms that protect both parties during the initial integration period. Then you would be willing to revise them? Asked the president. After conferring privately, the Conquered representatives offered a special revised agreement that removed some of the problematic language but kept the fundamental power imbalance intact. Back at Eric's house, now serving as their unofficial headquarters, John, Patricia, Eric, and Susan reviewed the new proposal. They're getting nervous, Susan observed. On the ship, I overheard two Valyrians arguing. From what I could make out, they never expected us to find those hidden terms. Eric nodded. Most species probably don't examine the agreement this carefully. They're either too desperate for the technology or too intimidated by the Conquered's power. Patricia paced the room. But why us? Why Earth? They said it's because of our location on these hyperlanes, but there must be many planets with similar positions. John thought about this. What if there's something else about Earth they want? Something they're not telling us? Susan pulled up images she had secretly taken on the Concorde ship. Look at the other species I saw. Notice anything? The images showed various alien beings. Despite their different forms, most moved slowly and deliberately. They're all very predictable, Patricia said. Even their ships, while advanced, use standardized designs. Eric snapped his fingers. That's it. Humans are adaptable. We change, we improvise, we break rules. Most evolutionary paths favor stability and specialization. We went the other way. Generalists who can rapidly adjust to new situations. And that scares them, John realized. If we get their technology while maintaining our independence, we could become a rival faster than they can control us, Susan finished. As they discussed this revelation, an alert sounded on Eric's system. A new ship had entered Earth orbit, one not from the Conquered. It was smaller and unlike the elegant designs of the Concorde vessels. Its hull bore marks of repairs and modifications. They're broadcasting a message, Eric said, typing rapidly on his keyboard. They're calling themselves the Drell. They're requesting direct communication with Earth's representatives, away from Concord monitoring. The Concord mentioned the Drell, Patricia remembered. They described them as dangerous, a species that refuses to embrace civilization. John looked at the strange ship on the screen. I think we need to hear what they have to say. The Concord won't like that, Susan warned. Good, John said. Let's see how they react when we don't follow their script. Eric's communication system activated with an incoming transmission from the Drell ship. The screen filled with the image of a being with tough, ridged skin and 4 eyes that blinked independently of each other. People of Earth, the alien said, we were once like you. We made the mistake of trusting the Concord. We're here to make sure you don't do the same. The Drell captain called himself Vex. His face filled Eric's screen as he told his story to the small group of humans. 300 years ago, the Concord came to our world, just as they have come to yours, Vex said. His 4 eyes blinked in pairs. They offered technology and protection. They said we were special. What happened? John asked. We discovered the hidden terms too late. By then, the Concord had bases throughout our system. They began taking our world's resources. When we protested, they called us ungrateful and dangerous. Vex's voice grew harder. Soon, we were labeled as troublemakers to other species. Patricia leaned forward. So you broke away from them? Yes, at great cost. For a century, no other civilization would trade with us. We had to develop our own technology. We watched as the Concord did the same to other worlds. News of the Drell ship spread quickly. The Concord representatives demanded that Earth refuse any contact with them, calling them violent separatists and criminals. Why should we trust you over the Concord? Susan asked Vex. You're just one ship. They have a fleet and 47 member species. Vex made a sound like rough laughter. Ask yourselves this. If the Concord truly represents cooperative harmony, why do they fear you speaking with others? True allies don't control who you talk to. John found this logic compelling. Against the wishes of several world leaders, he arranged a face-to-face meeting with Vex. The Drell agreed to land a small shuttle in a remote airfield. When Vex stepped off his ship, John was surprised. The alien was shorter than he expected, with leathery skin marked by scars. He wore simple clothing with many pockets and tools attached. He looked nothing like the elegant Valurians or the crystalline Zax. Your world is beautiful, Vex said, looking at the mountains surrounding them. Rich with life. I see why they want it. The Concord says your people attacked their colonies, John said directly. Vex turned all 4 eyes to John. We took back what was ours. After they stripped our outer planets of minerals, we had nothing left to lose. At that moment, Patricia received an urgent message. The Concord had announced they were moving additional ships into Earth orbit for protection against Drell aggression. They're escalating, John said grimly. Vex wasn't surprised. This is how they operate. Create fear, offer protection, then take control while you're grateful for their help. Back in Washington, world leaders argued fiercely about how to respond. Some wanted to accept the Concord's protection. Others wanted to order all alien ships to leave Earth space immediately. The president called an emergency meeting with John, Patricia, Eric, and other key advisors. Susan joined by video link from the diplomatic office. We need a united response, the president said. But the world is divided. Some nations are ready to sign the Concord Agreement immediately. That would be a mistake, Eric said, showing new analysis on his tablet. I've been studying the data from both the Concord and the Drell. The Concord technology isn't as advanced as they want us to believe. They've been holding back progress to maintain control. Susan spoke up from the screen. I've been speaking with junior representatives from different Concord species. Many joined recently and are unhappy with their status. They thought they were getting equal partnerships too. The president looked tired. So what do you suggest? We can't fight them? Their technology is still far beyond our own. John had been quiet, thinking. Now he spoke. What if we don't accept or reject? What if we offer our own terms instead? Everyone looked at him in surprise. Think about it, John continued. They came to us. They want something from Earth. Let's treat this like any negotiation between equals. What terms would we offer? Patricia asked. Equal partnership from the beginning. Technology exchange, not gifts. Full sovereignty over Earth and our solar system. The president considered this. They'll never accept. Maybe not, John agreed. But their response will tell us everything we need to know about their true intentions. The next day, Earth's response shocked the galaxy. Instead of accepting or rejecting the Concord's offer, humanity proposed its own terms for joining the galactic community. The message was broadcast from every major nation simultaneously. Ambassador Zorli's reaction was visible even through alien features. The elegant Valurian's tentacles twisted in agitation. Crystal, the crystalline Zax, flashed so brightly that cameras had trouble adjusting. This is unprecedented, Zorli finally said. No emerging species has ever proposed terms to the Concord. Earth is unique in many ways, the president replied calmly. We look forward to your response. In private, the Concord representatives argued fiercely. Eric's surveillance equipment, secretly placed during earlier meetings, captured their conversation. Humans were supposed to either accept gratefully or reject foolishly, Zorli hissed to the others. Either outcome would have justified their classification as a managed species. Their adaptability is concerning, Crystal chimed. If they gain access to advanced technology while maintaining independence, they could rapidly become a major power, finished a third voice. On the Drell ship, Vex watched these developments with growing excitement. You've surprised them, he told John during a secure communication. The Concord doesn't handle surprises well. Will they attack? John asked. Not directly, not yet. They prefer to manipulate rather than conquer openly. It ruins their image. With other species they hope to recruit. True to Vex's prediction, the Concord returned with slightly improved terms while issuing veiled threats about isolation in a dangerous galaxy. Meanwhile, other ships began arriving in the solar system. Some were Concord members curious about the species bold enough to counteroffer. Others were independent traders sensing opportunity. Earth suddenly found itself the center of galactic attention. Susan's diplomatic skills proved valuable as she met with representatives from various species. Many of them are watching us closely, she reported. If we stand firm against the Concord, it could inspire others. Eric continued analyzing all communication between ships. The Concord leadership is panicking, he said. They're requesting reinforcements from their core systems. Patricia had been studying the biology of the different alien species they'd encountered. The Valurians and other founding Concord species evolved in stable environments, she explained. Their biology favors specialization and slow adaptation. Humans developed in a rapidly changing environment. We're wired differently, for quick learning and improvisation. That's what scares them, John realized. Not our technology or resources, but our adaptability. They can't predict what we'll do next. The president addressed the United Nations, sharing everything they had learned. For perhaps the first time in history, Earth's nations found common ground. The vote was nearly unanimous. Humanity would stand united in demanding fair treatment as equals or would go its own way. When this response was delivered to the Concord representatives, Ambassador Zorli could no longer hide his alarm. You do not understand the dangers of remaining outside established protection, the Valurian said. There are forces in the galaxy far more dangerous than you can imagine. Perhaps, the president replied. But we've faced dangers before. Humanity adapts, it's what we do best. As the humans left the meeting, Zorli turned to Crystal. Prepare the fleet. If they won't accept protection voluntarily, we must show them why they need it. Within 2 days, the Concord moved a peacekeeping fleet into the solar system. 20 large vessels positioned themselves in a formation that effectively surrounded Earth. Their official message called this a protective measure against Drell terrorists and other hostile elements. In reality, it was a show of force. Earth's military forces took up defensive positions, though everyone knew they stood no chance against such advanced technology. Nations readied their nuclear weapons, knowing these too would likely prove useless. They won't attack immediately, Vex told John during an emergency meeting. First, they'll try to create a situation that justifies their intervention. Patricia had been working closely with a Zach scientist named Lumi, who had secretly contacted her after becoming disturbed by the Concord's actions. Together, they made a breakthrough. We've gained access to some of the Concord's historical records, Patricia announced, entering the situation room where John, Eric, Susan, and military leaders had gathered. What we've found changes everything. She displayed images and documents on the main screen. The Concord has brought dozens of species into their alliance over thousands of years, all under similar false pretenses. The evidence was clear. World after world had been approached with generous offers, then gradually stripped of resources and independence. Species that resisted were isolated or labeled as threats. Some were even driven to extinction through engineered conflicts. The Concord isn't the Democratic Council they presented, Eric explained, pointing to organizational charts. There's an inner circle of the 5 oldest species who maintain control through carefully managed technology distribution and economic dependence. The president studied the evidence. How did you get this information? Not all members of the Concord agree with their leadership, Patricia said. Lumi and others have been questioning the system for centuries, but lacked the power to change it. Susan, who had been building relationships with representatives from various Concord species, nodded. Many of the more recently joined species are watching Earth closely. Our resistance has given them hope that change is possible. John looked at the positioning of the Concord fleet on the tactical display. They're getting impatient. We need to move quickly. I have an idea, Eric said. But it's risky. The plan was daring. Using technology provided by Lumi and Vex, a small team would infiltrate the Concord flagship during a scheduled diplomatic meeting. While the Concord leaders were distracted, they would access the central communications array and broadcast the unaltered historical records to all Concord vessels and member worlds. It's not just about Earth anymore, John told the president. This is about justice for dozens of species who were deceived just like us. The mission was set for the following day. John would lead the team, which included Eric for his technical skills and Susan for her diplomatic knowledge. Patricia would remain on Earth with Lumi to coordinate. As they prepared, tension grew throughout the solar system. More ships arrived, daily, some conquered, others independent. Earth's citizens watched the skies with a mixture of fear and wonder. That night, John couldn't sleep. He stood outside Eric's house, looking at the stars that now held so much more meaning. Scared? Patricia asked, joining him. Concerned, John replied. If we fail, Earth could pay the price. And if we do nothing, we'll definitely pay the price, she said, just more slowly. John nodded. I keep thinking about human history. We've made so many mistakes. Wars, environmental damage, inequality. We're far from perfect. But we learn, Patricia said. We change. We try to be better. Maybe that's what the galaxy really needs. Not the Concord's false stability, but honest growth, even with its messiness. The next morning, John, Eric, and Susan boarded a diplomatic shuttle bound for the Concord flagship. Each carried hidden equipment provided by Vex and Lumi. The plan relied on precise timing and the element of surprise. Ambassador Zorley greeted them in the flagship's grand meeting chamber. Other high-ranking Concord officials joined them, their manner tense but outwardly polite. We are pleased you have agreed to further discussions, Zorley said. Perhaps today we can resolve our misunderstandings. That's exactly what we hope to do, John replied with a meaningful look at his team. As the meeting began, Eric excused himself, claiming a need to use facilities designed for humans. His absence was noted but allowed. Susan engaged the Concord representatives in detailed questions about trade policies, drawing their full attention. Meanwhile, Eric made his way through the ship's corridors, following directions provided by Lumi. He reached a maintenance access point and slipped inside, finding himself in a narrow service tunnel. At the communication hub, Eric worked quickly to connect the devices he had brought. His hands moved steadily despite the risk. If caught, he would likely face severe punishment, and Earth would face retaliation. Back in the meeting room, John received a silent signal that Eric was in position. He needed to create a distraction. "Before we continue," John announced, standing, suddenly, "I believe there's something all of you should see." He activated a small device that projected images of the secret Concord documents they had discovered. Zorli reacted with alarm, tentacles writhing. "Where did you get these?" The Valurian demanded. "This is classified information. The truth has a way of coming out," John said calmly. At that moment, throughout the flagship and across the Concord fleet, communication systems activated unexpectedly. On every screen, the true history of the Concord began to play. The manipulations, the resource theft, the subjugation of species after species. Confusion spread through the flagship. Crew members from various species watched in shock as the carefully constructed narrative of the Concord's benevolence fell apart. In the meeting room, Zorli turned to John with cold fury. "You have no idea what you've done." "I think we do," Susan replied. "We've given people information. What they do with it is their choice." The effect was immediate and dramatic. On several Concord vessels, crew members from lesser species refused orders. Some ships broke formation. Communication channels filled with questions and accusations. Eric rejoined John and Susan as alarms sounded throughout the flagship. "We need to leave. Now." They made their way back to their shuttle, passing groups of agitated aliens arguing in corridors. Not everyone believed the revelations, but enough did to create chaos. As their shuttle departed, they witnessed the first shots, fired not between humans and the Concord but between conquered factions. A crystalline ship, similar to crystals but larger, fired upon a Valurian vessel that was targeting a ship trying to break away from the fleet. "It's happening," Eric said quietly. "The Concord is fracturing." From Earth, Patricia and the President watched the unfolding events with a mixture of hope and fear. The Concord's show of force had transformed into internal conflict. Vex contacted them from his ship, which was now joined by other Drell vessels that had arrived in response to the revelations. "You've done what we couldn't do for centuries," the alien said, his four eyes blinking in what they now recognized as excitement. "You've broken their control of information. The galaxy is waking up." As John's shuttle returned to Earth, the night sky above them flickered with distant flashes, the light of weapons fire as the Concord's civil war began. Humanity had done more than reject an offer. They had changed the course of galactic history. "What happens now?" Susan asked as they watched the lights above. "Now," John said, "we help build something better." 3 weeks after the Concord began to fracture, Earth became something no one had expected: neutral ground. Ships from 17 different species orbited the planet. Their representatives gathered in a hastily constructed meeting facility in Geneva. Some were former Concord members. Others were independents like the Drell. A few came from species that had been isolated or labeled as threats by the Concord. John watched from the back of the room as alien beings of incredible diversity attempted to find common ground. Arguments broke out frequently. Ancient grievances surfaced. Trust was in short supply. "This isn't going well," Susan whispered to him. Her diplomatic skills had been pushed to their limits in recent days. "Did you expect it to be easy?" John replied. "They've been manipulated for centuries, some for thousands of years." Patricia entered the room with Lumi, the Zax scientist who had become a key ally. The crystalline alien's body glowed with a soft blue light that indicated thoughtfulness. "The fighting has spread to 12 conquered core systems," Lumi reported. "The founding species are trying to maintain control, but too many have seen the truth now." "Any word from Zorli?" John asked. Patricia shook her head. "The Valurian leadership has retreated to their homeworld. They've cut off communication with most species, including humans." Eric joined them, carrying his ever-present tablet. "I've been analyzing data from ships arriving from conquered space. Their technology isn't as unified as they made it appear. Different species developed different specialties, but the founding races controlled who got what. Keeping everyone dependent, John noted. Exactly. But now that the information is flowing freely, Eric gestured to a group of aliens excitedly sharing technical data in the corner of the room. The president approached their group. In recent weeks, she had aged visibly under the stress, but her eyes remained sharp and determined. The United Nations Security Council has approved our proposal, she told them. We're officially offering Earth as the meeting place for a new interstellar alliance, one based on actual cooperation this time. Will they accept? Susan asked, looking at the chaotic gathering. Some already have, the president replied. Others are waiting to see who else joins. The Drell were the first to agree, followed by the Narvians and the Zax breakaway faction. Lumi's crystalline body flashed with golden light, the equivalent of a smile. My people have lived too long under Valurian direction. Many of us are ready for change. John excused himself and walked outside. The spring air felt good after hours in the crowded meeting room. He looked up at the sky, where strange ships now moved in peaceful orbits. Armed Earth vessels patrolled alongside them, humanity taking its first steps as a guardian of galactic peace. Vex found him there. The Drell captain had become an unexpected friend. Your world is handling this better than most would, Vex said. When the Concord's deception was revealed to my people, we had 3 years of civil war. We've had plenty of practice with difficult transitions, John replied. And we had warning, thanks to you. Vex made the rough sound that passed for laughter. Among his kind. I came to warn you against the Concord. I never expected to help build something to replace it. Inside the meeting hall, Patricia was explaining her latest discovery to an attentive audience of humans and aliens. It wasn't just political control the Concord founders wanted, she said, displaying genetic data on the large screen. They were guiding evolution itself across multiple worlds. The evidence was compelling. The Concord had subtly manipulated environments and selection pressures on developing worlds. They steered species toward stability, predictability, and specialization, traits that made them easier to control. But they couldn't do this with humans, Patricia continued. We developed in isolation, following our own evolutionary path. Our adaptability, our creativity, our willingness to cooperate with truly different species as equals, these traits terrified the Concord leadership. Eric added, they couldn't predict us. Their models failed when applied to human behavior. That's why they moved so quickly to bring us under control. And why we were perfectly positioned to break that control. Susan finished. Later that day, a vote was held. Despite ongoing disagreements, the gathered species agreed on basic principles for a new alliance, one that would respect the sovereignty and unique development of each member. They called it the Stellar Covenant. Earth would too serve as its headquarters, at least initially, not because humans demanded this role, but because so many species recognized humanity's central part in creating this new beginning. As ships prepared to depart, some to spread the word, others to bring resources or more representatives, John stood with Patricia on the observation deck. I keep thinking about how close we came to accepting their first offer, John said, if we'd been a little less suspicious. Or if Eric hadn't found those hidden terms, Patricia added. It's what humans do, Eric said, joining them. We question, we doubt, we look for the catch. Sometimes it gets us into trouble. And sometimes it saves us, Susan finished, completing the thought as she arrived with cups of coffee for everyone. Across the galaxy, the news spread rapidly. The Concord's tight control of information had broken down completely. More ships defected every day. Species that had been silent for centuries spoke out. Ancient technologies, long hidden by the founding races, were rediscovered and shared. On the Valurian homeworld, the Concord's original leaders held an emergency session. Reports of growing rebellion filled their displays. Their carefully maintained order was collapsing around them. We should have offered them anything they wanted, said one ancient Valurian, skin dark with distress. Given them whatever technology they asked for, whatever status they demanded. It would not have mattered, replied another. They would have seen through any deception eventually. The humans are too unpredictable. We should have destroyed them immediately, said a third. As soon as we recognized their potential danger, the eldest among them, a Valurian who had overseen 1,000 years of Concord expansion, spoke last. There is no middle ground with humans, he said softly. They have changed everything. Back on Earth, preparations began for the first official gathering of the Stellar Covenant. Representatives from 23 species would attend, with more joining remotely. For the first time, all would meet as equals. John watched ships of the newly formed alliance departing Earth's orbit. Some would protect emerging worlds from those who still clung to the old ways. Others would seek out isolated species who might join them. Patricia joined him by the window. "Do you think we're ready for this role?" she asked. "A century ago, we were still fighting world wars. Even now, we have so many problems of our own." John considered this. "Maybe that's exactly why. We're right for this moment," he said. "We're not perfect. We know we're not perfect. And that makes all the difference." Outside, the sun set on a day unlike any in human history. Earth had not conquered the galaxy. It had done something far more powerful. It had shown the galaxy a different path forward. And throughout the stars, species that had lived for generations under control looked toward the small blue planet and began to hope.